And thank you for joining us for the first webinar of the fall entitled, What is the Batten MPP? My name is Jeff Chidester, and I'm the Executive Director of External Affairs here at the Batten School of Leadership and Public Policy. With me this evening is Courtney Leistensnider, our Assistant Director for Admissions. The image you see behind me is of Garrett Hall, which is the home of the Batten School. Garrett Hall is located right next to UVA's historic academical village on the university's central grounds. I wish we were able to conduct this session there inside our great hall and not through this computer screen, but this is a unique and challenging time for all of us. We're now 6 months into fighting a once-in-a-century global pandemic, choppy waters still ahead. Here in the US, we've had a renewed reckoning with important issues of racial justice and equity. These are extraordinary challenges, and I know many of you and your loved ones have been personally affected. So first and foremost, I want to say thank you for giving us some of your time this evening, and to say on behalf of the Batten community that we're eager to work with you to make sure that your grad school search is as rewarding and as exciting as it should be. So on that note, it's hard to believe the 2020-2021 admission cycle has begun in earnest. So I expect and I hope that at this stage you're casting a wide net and you're becoming familiar with the range of options out there. You know, one of the great things about higher ed today, there's an enormous diversity of quality graduate programs out there. Your job is to find the one that's best for you. Where I think we can be helpful is in providing clarity about our program and our school. So throughout the fall, we're going to be hosting weekly webinars on a wide range of topics: career outcomes, student organizations, diversity and inclusion, how to fund your graduate education, much, much more. I look forward to seeing you along this journey. So tonight, we begin with a big question. What is the Batten MPP? An important thing to understand at the outset is that the Batten MPP is different, and it's different by design. Now, notice I didn't say that it was better. Grad school is an intensely personal choice, so it's up to you to decide which program is best. But we are different. So let me tell you a little bit about why and how we're different. In order to understand the how and the why, I have to provide you with a quick historical sweep of public policy education. So modern public policy education goes back really to the early part of the 20th century. Even a little bit before that, in the 1890s and early 1900s, business schools like Wharton, Tuck, and Harvard were using advanced training to provide managers and future business leaders with training in industrial inefficiency. So a scholar named Frederick Winslow Taylor was one of the first what's known as management consultants. But around this time, there's also this growing sense of angst and frustration that state and local government is also quite inefficient too. So in response, schools began to recruit small groups of students who wanted to be future city bureaucrats, and they began training them in organizational and administrative efficiency. So this led to the evolution of the first 2-year MPA, Master of Public Administration. Around that same time, scholars and government managers identified a need for systematic and rigorous analysis on public policy, separate from administration. So initially, that work is being conducted in places like the Brookings Institution, who believed that government needed to base its policy decisions on sound scientific analysis. This went on for many decades as universities continued to train administrators, while research was being conducted at non-university think tanks and research centers. So fast forward to the early 1960s, a lot of scholars are getting involved in sponsored research at places like Brookings, places like the Rand Corporation, and others. This is also around the time when modern tools of econometric and game theoretic analysis start to offer really great new possibilities. Finally, the academy realized they needed to catch up. They needed to revise their curricula. And thus, the first MPP degrees, the Master of Public Policy, using both administration and analysis, are born. This revised model, which is what most policy schools use today, has two mutually reinforcing missions. First, training capable administrators, and second, conducting nonpartisan policy research. Now, the presumption of this model was that better tools of policy analysis would necessarily produce better societal outcomes. Unfortunately, that ignored the complexity of the policy world. It ignored the human factor. You see, good solutions were being identified, but graduates of MPP programs didn't have the requisite skills to implement. or execute those policies. This led to a lot of frustration with both policymakers and institutions of higher education. But it wasn't a problem of teaching better administration or training better policy analysis. This was a leadership problem. So in 2007, the University of Virginia created the Batten School as a new model of public policy education, one that infuses leadership with policy and policy with leadership, one that seeks to educate, to train, to cultivate the next generation of policy leaders. Our programs are defined by a multidisciplinary approach to problem solving, rigorous quantitative and qualitative analytical training, experiential learning opportunities, and evidence-based decision-making. Of the more than 250 schools of public policy and public administration in the US, Batten is the only one explicitly committed to teaching policy and leadership. So you see, we have a different perspective on policy education, and that changes who we bring into our community. Grades are important. I'm not going to say that we don't look at your transcript, but it's so much more than that. We're looking for individuals who want to be architects of change. Because for us, this isn't a 2-year degree. This is a lifelong community of impact. And that's really what we're trying to find. So if you decide someday to come here, you'll discover that Thomas Jefferson looms large in the university. I think I'm contractually obligated to include a Jefferson quote in every talk I give. So let me offer this one. We in America do not have government by the majority. We have government by the majority who participate. And I love this quote because I really do think that it cuts to the heart of what our school is all about, developing the next generation of leaders committed to solving the world's toughest policy challenges. So if that's a mission that resonates with you, we'd love to give you a bit more detail about the MPP program. So to do that, let me turn it over to our Assistant Director of Admissions, Courtney Leistensnider. Courtney?
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff went over some of the basics about our MPP program, but I want to spend the next couple of minutes really talking about why Batten is such a special place and highlight some of the other ways that our community is so engaging. Part of the reason that our program is unique is because of the model of our degree. Jeff walked through some of the history of why our degree is different, but I want to highlight on a couple of other features of our program. First, we're a 2-year residential program. Normally, you'd be seeing this, the rotunda and the Great Lawn that represents the academical village of the university. The Batten School is one of the smallest schools at the university to give you that really small school experience, while also taking advantage of all the opportunities that a large school can provide, whether that's top name entertainers, a national title winning basketball team, or of course, obviously, the top faculty and staff that a university can possibly provide. We're located in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is frequently ranked as one of the best places to live. And personally, in my opinion, one of the best places to eat as well. So our model is really designed around this 2-year residential model. We also believe in having a really small cohort, as you can imagine, from being one of the smallest schools. Each year, our Master of Public Policy program brings in around 90 students, comprised of students who we call postgraduate MPPs. Those of you on the call who are graduating or have graduated from another institution and are looking to join our Batten community, whether right after graduation or after working for a few years, as well as students in our accelerated master's program. Those students who are joining our program in their 4th and final year of study, but then finish their master's degree in 1 additional year at the university. We believe in having a really small program to develop a really thick network that you can really get to know your classmates over those 2 years. In our class of 2020, we have students represented from over 26 states and 5 countries. We have students from 44 different undergraduate institutions, where those students majored in a variety of fields from politics to physics and practically everything in between. Our cohorts frequently have students well represented from the armed services, as well as students who possibly are married and have kids. We believe having these very diverse backgrounds will provide that opportunity for you to really understand the problems facing society and the ways that you can work to really create that change. Now, I mentioned our thick network. We want you to get to know your classmates, but this is not just a 2-year commitment, as Jeff mentioned. This is definitely something that's going to extend once you leave our institution. So our alumni are currently based around the globe in almost every single industry. We have individuals who are represented at the United Nations, as well as within the federal government, as well as state and local government. We have students at some of the top corporations in America and the globe, including Google and Amazon and Visa, students who go on to consulting and agencies like Booz Allen Hamilton, Deloitte, McKinsey, and Accenture. We have students in some of the top nonprofits as well, including the Red Cross, as well as Habitat for Humanity. We see our students within 6 months after graduation, 98% of them have that first destination. And it's not just in any job, it's the job that they so desperately want to do and be in to make that change that they see. We see students entering the public sector, the private sector, as well as the nonprofit sector. And if you want to be a presidential management fellow, we have a pretty good track record there as well. Now, we have a very unique and special career services team who are really there to help you along your way from the first day as well as through graduation and beyond. Our alumni also want to continue to give back to this network that they so desperately have bought into and believe in. They help our students along with their career services team secure an internship. The past few years, we've continued to keep up with our 100% internship placement rate. Even this summer during COVID, all of our students did have an internship. This is a required component of our Master of Public Policy program, which allows you to really put into practice the skills you learn in the first year. Just as our alumni have some amazing placement rates, our interns also have some amazing locations as well. This past summer, we had students at the Federal Reserve, the Government Accountability Office, Richmond City Public Schools, Habitat for Humanity here in Charlottesville, as well as some embassies. All of this to say, our students are impressive, our alumni are impressive, but we like to think our faculty and staff have a lot to offer as well. I mentioned we have a dedicated career services team within the Batten School. You'll also have an advisor from day one who will help you map out the classes in order to get you where you want to be after graduation. Between the career and student services team as well as the academics team, you'll really have the opportunity to find your path within the policy world and get to where you want to be. We have a 10-to-1 ratio of faculty and staff to students. So not only are you going to get to know your classmates, but you'll also get to know all of the faculty and staff, including our dean. Dean Ian Solomon joined us in September of 2019, and he's one of the ones that you'll hear from hopefully in the next few weeks as a part of this webinar series. He himself is an impressive individual serving in the Obama administration. He's been in higher education. He's been in the private sector as well, but he's one that really believes in our Batten community, and since day one has really been dedicated to making sure that Batten community is as diverse, equitable, and inclusive as possible. Now, our Batten community is a family, but you're going to have over these 2 years and beyond experiences both inside and outside the classroom. First, you'll obviously have that inside the classroom experience. Our 2-year curriculum will really get you where you need to be a strong policy analyst and a strong leader within the policy world. We'll introduce you to concepts of data analysis, as well as social psychology and leadership, while also getting you where you need to be within the policy areas of your interest. You can take courses on healthcare policy and education policy. You can take classes that are designed to help build your skills, such as a negotiations class or federal and state budgeting. You can also take some classes across the entire University of Virginia curriculum and school library, including classes at the law school as well as Darden, which is our business school, one of the top business schools in the world. All of this to say, you get to really go from 0 to 100 within the skills that you need to be that strong policy advocate out in the world. Now, you'll have these applied experiences inside and outside the classroom, while being taught by some of the top scholars and practitioners of the day. You can take a class from Professor Chris Room, who's one of the leading experts on the opioid crisis. Or you can take a class from Professor Kirsten Gelsdorf, who worked at the UN in humanitarian relief. The range really does span all of the interests of our Batten students as well as the Batten faculty. So you have the chance to really learn firsthand from those who are the leaders in this policy world. Outside the classroom, you have opportunities to engage in some of our 6 research centers, including our Center for Leadership, Simulation, and Gaming, or our National Security Policy Center. Additionally, we have 11 different student organizations within the Batten School that allow you to connect with your classmates not only in your cohort, but across the entire Batten School. I know this was a very quick and high-level overview of all that Batten has to offer, and I hope over the next few weeks and months you can really start to explore those topics through our weekly webinars. But I want to turn it back over to Jeff for some closing remarks before we start questions.
Thanks, Courtney. And as Courtney said, we have covered quite a bit of ground in a short period of time, and it is okay if you do not retain it all. I do hope you leave this conversation, though, understanding that we're doing something different, something special here at the Batten School. Back in 2007, when the school was just getting up and running, the late Frank Batten Sr., who really understood leadership as well as anyone, he said, "Never has there been a greater need for enlightened and ethical leaders prepared for public life in their communities, in their professions, in the world at large." And I kind of think that that observation is more true today than ever. We need people to meet this moment. So if what we said about the Batten MPP resonates you, we invite you to begin a conversation with us and with other members of our community. If you want to connect with current students, with alumni, with faculty, let us know. Their lenses are really, really important to your search. And I know they really enjoy speaking with you as well. Whatever you ultimately decide, we wish you the very best. And we thank you for joining us tonight.